People always said I was lucky. Lucky to marry a man like Evan Cole. Lucky to live in a glass front house overlooking the Pacific. Lucky to have a husband who opened doors, remembered birthdays, and smiled for cameras like he was born for them. They didn't know the cost of that smile. On the night everything cracked, the ocean outside our Malibu home was calm. Too calm. The kind of quiet that presses against your ears until your thoughts get loud. Evan stood behind me, his hands resting lightly on my shoulders as I stared out through the window. "You should drink more water," he said softly. "You've been tired lately." I nodded, even though my throat felt tight. He always said things like that right before something went wrong. I took the glass from his hand. White wine. Cold. Crisp. Expensive. The same brand he always insisted on pouring himself. "Here's to us," he said, lifting his own glass. I forced a smile and took a sip. The burn came faster this time. Not the normal sting of alcohol. Something sharper. Metallic. My vision blurred at the edges, like someone was slowly dimming the lights. I remember Evan's face. Calm. Watching. Waiting. Then the floor rushed up to meet me. When I woke up, the ceiling above me was unfamiliar. White. Too white. The steady beep of a monitor filled the air. Hospital. My body felt heavy, like it didn't belong to me anymore. Tubes ran into my arms. My head throbbed. I turned slightly and saw Evan sitting beside the bed, his fingers wrapped around mine, his face carved into perfect concern. "Oh my God," he whispered. "You scared me." I wanted to pull my hand away. But I couldn't move. The doctor came in moments later, explaining something about dehydration, stress, low blood pressure. They said I'd passed out. Said I was lucky Evan was home. Lucky. I watched my husband nod, asking the right questions, playing the role flawlessly. If there were awards for this kind of performance, he would have won them all. Later, when the room emptied, he leaned close and brushed my hair back gently. "You have to stop pushing yourself," he murmured. "I don't know what I'd do without you." His voice was warm. His eyes were cold. I stayed in the hospital overnight. Evan insisted. He even slept in the chair beside my bed, or pretended to. At 3:17 a.m., a nurse came in to check my IV. She was young, maybe late 20s, her movements quick but nervous. As she adjusted the drip, her fingers brushed my wrist. Then she pressed something into my palm. Paper. Folded. Small. Her eyes flicked to Evan, who was asleep, then back to me. "Rest," she whispered. "You need it." And just like that, she was gone. My heart hammered as I slowly opened my hand under the blanket. 3 words were written in shaky ink. "Check your blood." I didn't sleep after that. By morning, Evan was back to being the devoted husband, ordering breakfast, joking with the staff, calling my sister to update her. He kissed my forehead before stepping out to take a call. The moment he left, I rang for the nurse. "Not the same one?" I asked for my test results. She hesitated. Then said she'd get the doctor. That hesitation told me everything. They discharged me that afternoon, but something had changed. Not around me. Inside me. I started paying attention. The way Evan always insisted on handling our finances. The way he discouraged me from driving long distances. The way my headaches had started only after our 3rd anniversary. The way he'd suggested increasing my life insurance for security. I told myself I was being paranoid. Until I found the search history on his laptop. How long does antifreeze stay in the bloodstream? Symptoms of ethylene glycol poisoning. Life insurance payout timeline, accidental death. My hands shook as I closed the laptop. The truth wasn't loud. It was quiet. Methodical. Planned. My husband wasn't impulsive. He was patient. I didn't confront him. That's what he expected. Instead, I smiled. I drank the wine he poured but only pretended to swallow. I played the tired wife. The grateful survivor. I thanked him for saving my life. And I started keeping records. Dates. Times. Doses. Photos of pills. Screenshots of emails. Copies of policies I didn't remember signing. I learned something important during those weeks. Men like Evan don't fear anger. They fear control slipping away. The second hospital visit happened faster. This time, he panicked a little. Too much, too soon. The doctors ran deeper tests. Blood panels. Toxicology. The nursey, the same one from before you found me again. You weren't wrong, she whispered. There's something in your system that shouldn't be. I swallowed hard. Can you prove it? I asked. She hesitated. Then nodded once. That was the moment the game changed. Evan stood at the foot of my hospital bed later that night, hands in his pockets, jaw tight. They're keeping you longer, he said. Probably nothing. I looked at him, really looked. At the man I married. At the man who kissed me goodbye every morning. At the man who wanted me dead. And I smiled. Whatever you think is best, I said softly. His eyes lingered on me for a second too long. Suspicion. Fear. Good. Because while he thought I was weak, sedated, unaware, I was already planning his ending. And I wasn't going to poison him. I was going to let the world watch him destroy himself. By the time Evan realized something was different, it was already too late. Men like him don't notice danger when it's quiet. They only react when it screams. And I had learned to be very, very quiet. After the second hospital stay, Evan became careful. Not Kendra careful. He started measuring instead of guessing. Smaller doses. Longer gaps. He switched from wine to smoothies. Health conscious. Loving. Concerned. I just want you strong again, he'd say, blending spinach and berries like a devoted husband. I smiled and thanked him. Then I poured it down the sink when he wasn't looking. What Evan didn't know was that the hospital hadn't just kept me longer for observation. They'd kept my blood samples. Every vial. Every anomaly. And one nursey braver than she realized had copied the reports. Ethylene glycol. Trace amounts. Consistent over time. Poison doesn't lie. I contacted a lawyer through a burner phone. Not divorce. Not yet. Criminal. Her name was Diane Brooks. Mid-50s. Former federal prosecutor. The kind of woman who didn't raise her voice because she didn't need to. She read everything in silence. Then she looked up and asked one question. Is he smart? Yes, I said. That's the problem. She nodded. Good. Smart men leave patterns. We didn't move fast. That was the hardest part. Every instinct in my body screamed to run, to expose him, to burn everything down. But Diane was clear. If we rush this, he walks. If we wait, he cages himself. So I waited. I let Evan think his plan was working. I let him schedule my follow-up appointments. Let him refill my prescriptions. Let him believe he was still in control. Meanwhile, Diane subpoenaed our financial records. That's when the second story emerged. Life insurance policies I didn't remember approving. Accidental death riders. Beneficiaries quietly updated. Him. Always him. But that wasn't all. There were emails. Drafts he never sent. Notes saved to cloud storage under generic names like projects and planning. I read every one. Timelines. Dosages. Risk assessments. My husband had turned my life into a spreadsheet. The turning point came with the third attempt. This one was supposed to look natural. A hiking trip. His idea. Fresh air, he said. We need a reset. I agreed immediately. That surprised him. We drove north, deep into the mountains. No cell service. No witnesses. Just trees and sky and the sound of gravel under tires. I wore a heart monitor under my shirt. Court approved. Hospital issued. If something went wrong, it would record everything. At the trailhead, Evan handed me a water bottle. Drink slowly, he said. Altitude. I took it. Pretended to sip. We walked for 20 minutes. 30. Then I stopped. I feel dizzy, I said. Right on cue, his concern sharpened. Too quick. You should sit, he said, guiding me to a rock. I'll get help. He turned. I collapsed. Not acting. The poison this time was real. But the dose was wrong. Because he hadn't accounted for one thing. I'd built tolerance. The next moments were chaos. My heart monitor spiked. My breathing slowed. Evan panicked, a real panic this time. He called emergency services, shouting, crying, playing the hero again. Except this time, everything was recorded. His frantic pacing. His whispered curse when he thought I couldn't hear. His hesitation just long enough for the system to note it. When the helicopter arrived, he squeezed my hand. Stay with me, he begged. I looked at him through half-closed eyes. And whispered, I know. The sound his throat made after that wasn't fear. It was collapse. I survived. Of course I did. This time, there was no confusion. No vague diagnoses. No maybes. The toxicology report was airtight. Evan was arrested 3 days later in the hospital parking lot, still wearing the same jacket he'd draped over my shoulders for the cameras. The footage went everywhere. Local news first. Then national. Prominent tech consultant arrested in wife poisoning case. He didn't fight at first. He smiled in court. That smile again. Until Diane slid the audio across the table. The mountain recording. His breath caught. For the first time, Evan Cole didn't have words. But the story wasn't over. Because trials aren't about truth. They're about perception. And Evan had spent his whole life mastering that. He pleaded not guilty. Claimed misunderstanding. Contamination. Stress. Coincidence. His attorneys were confident. Too confident. Which was exactly what I was counting on. Because while they prepared their defense, I prepared the final move. Evan always believed the trial would save him. That was his final mistake. He thought juries were puzzles to be solved, emotions to be manipulated. He believed charm could bend reality. And for a while, it worked. Reporters called him soft-spoken. Commentators argued there was reasonable doubt. Online threads questioned my credibility. Why would a successful man poison his wife? Why didn't she leave earlier? Why now? I watched it all from a quiet apartment Diane had arranged for me, far from Malibu, far from memories. The ocean wasn't outside my window anymore. Just brick walls and sirens and real life. I slept better there. The prosecution opened with facts. Charts. Timelines. Toxicology. Financial motives. The defense opened with a story. A loving husband. A fragile wife. A tragic coincidence. Evan took the stand on day 4. He wore a navy suit. The same one he wore to our anniversary dinners. His hair was perfect. His voice steady. He spoke about meeting me. About love. About fear. I would never hurt her, he said, looking directly at the jury. I spent my life protecting her. I felt nothing. Because I knew what was coming. On day 7, Diane stood. She didn't call a witness. She called evidence. Your Honor, she said calmly, We request permission to play an audio file recovered under warrant from the defendant's personal cloud storage. Evan's lawyer stiffened. What audio? He snapped. Diane didn't answer him. She pressed play. The courtroom filled with Evan's voice. Not the polished one. The private one. Recorded months before my collapse. You have to space it out, he said. Too fast and it shows. Too slow and she recovers. Once the policy pays out, everything resets. Murmurs spread like wildfire. Evan froze. The judge leaned forward. Diane didn't stop. She played another clip. People don't question accidents. They question women who complain. That one broke the room. Evan's lawyer stood up, shouting objections, but it was over. The jury wasn't listening anymore. They were staring at him. Not with confusion. With recognition. But Diane wasn't done. She called the nurse. The young woman walked to the stand, hands shaking but eyes steady. She testified about the blood work. The repeated anomalies. The pattern no one wanted to say out loud until now. Then the heart monitor data. The mountain recording. The moment Evan hesitated. The moment his mask cracked. When the final audio ended, the courtroom was silent. Not dramatic silence. The kind that settles permanently. Evan didn't look at me. Not once. Because he knew. This wasn't about poison anymore. It was about who he was when he thought no one was watching. The verdict came back in under 3 hours. Guilty on all counts. Attempted murder. Aggravated poisoning. Insurance fraud. Premeditation. Evan didn't react. Not until the judge read the sentence. 35 years. No parole for 20. That's when his shoulders finally slumped. Not in regret. In loss of control. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. Do you feel victorious? One asked. No, I said honestly. I feel free. Another shouted, would you forgive him? I paused. Then said, I don't think about him at all. And I meant it. Months later, the house in Malibu sold. The insurance money, what was left after a legal battle, went into a foundation for victims of domestic poisoning and medical gaslighting. The nurse received a scholarship in her name. I moved somewhere quiet. No ocean. No glass walls. No surveillance. I cut my hair short. I stopped drinking wine. I started walking every morning, not to escape anything, just because I could. Sometimes, people recognize me. Sometimes, they don't. I prefer the second one. Evan wrote me one letter. Just one. I never opened it. Because the truth is this. Revenge wasn't ruining his life. Revenge was refusing to carry him into my future. People think survival stories end with justice. They don't. They end with peace. And for the first time in my life, I had nothing to fear.